Hey everybody, it's David Getoff again, and this is going to be a little bit different. We've been waging war on ants for years. I don't know what part of the country you're living in, whoever's listening to this or watching me right now, but San Diego or California and a bunch of the other states, there's a small black ant called the Argentine ant, which gets everywhere. I mean, you name it, it gets it. And there's master colonies with billions of them in them all over the place. And you can't really get rid of them. You could probably use a whole bunch of really toxic poisons if you wanted to in your house, but I won't do that. So that's not something that we do. We use a product called Tweetment, T-W-E-E-T-M-I-N-T, Tweetment. Which if you dilute that, I think it's a tablespoon for a 16-ounce spray bottle, and the rest of the 16 ounces is just water to shake it up. If you spray that on the ants, and it's the same thing I have in the pump dispensers around my house for washing my hands, washing my body, and it's a fantastic grease and oil cutter. But if you spray it on ants, within 30 seconds or so, it kills them. And it does that because apparently it's got some enzymes in it which work to digest the exoskeleton of the ant. It was developed by an enzyme expert who I knew. Very nice man. He died recently. He was the owner of the company that makes Tweetment, and now his either daughter or granddaughter continues to do that. But we have cats, and my cats are 9th generation raw meat, so they're on a perfect diet. They get raw beef, raw lamb, raw chicken, raw liver, raw kidney, raw heart, raw chicken necks, etc. And my wife's a potter, so she made this nice plate for them. Let's get a close-up here. So she made this nice plate for them, and it sort of stands on a foot that's part of the plate, and it's sitting in a stainless steel pan which has about 1/2 inch of water in it. It's over toward the side, but the foot of the plate is not touching the side, so ants can't get to it. So that's basically, it's in a moat. The problem is that, the cats will eat a piece, and maybe they'll drop a piece on the floor, and then the ants find it within no time at all, even if we don't see any ants on the floor. And so I've been trying to figure out what can I do that will make it so that that can't happen. And so I've been working on that in my brain for a while, and I came up with this idea. You don't need my face that big. Let's zoom this out just a little bit here. Okay, so I came up with this idea that if I took a piece of something flat, wood, whatever, and made it large enough that in addition to the plate being on it, the girls were also standing on it. So if they dropped a piece, they wouldn't be dropping it on the floor, they'd be dropping it on the part of whatever it was I built that they were standing on. Then I took what they were standing on, and I raised that up off the floor, and put another piece of something underneath it, and connected them to. I'm going to show you this in a minute. It's out of my deck. I'm working on it right now. And don't know whether you've ever heard, most of you, of a product. Let's get a photograph of this. Let's see. Okay, this product is called Tree Tanglefoot. All right. Tree Tanglefoot. It's been available for many decades. It's an icky, gooey, I don't even know what to call it, which I'm going to keep talking as I walk outside. It is to tangle up the feet of any insect that touches it. So insects cannot cross Tree Tanglefoot. If you've got Tree Tanglefoot on something, the insects can't get across it. It's used on trees where they paint it around the circumference of the bark on the tree so that the ants can't get up the tree and do all sorts of different things you don't want on a tree. And as an example, as I'm outside now on my deck, let me get out of the sun so I can see here. So this is my one of my hummingbird feeders. And we've had a couple of different times and the reason it's slightly darker is because I'm using an organic, unrefined sugar. You can't use honey or any of that special stuff because that's not good for the hummingbird. So it's regular plain old sugar, just happens to be organic, unrefined, so it's not clear. Well, I came out here one day a couple of years ago, and there were millions of ants. I mean, you couldn't see the glass. It was covered with black. So I came up with this idea, and what I decided to do was to take a piece of dowel stick and coat tree tanglefoot all over it so that the ants couldn't get across it onto my hummingbird feeder. And I haven't had to touch that or put any more of anything on it for 7 years. And when you're looking at that, you see some things on it. Those are not even going to be ants. The ants couldn't get past the first tiny edge. Those are maybe some flying moths or something that happened to alight on it, and of course they couldn't get off. So this is what I'm doing here. Let me move this over to where I'm working. Let's set this down and tilt it so you can see what's going on. Let's move that back a little bit. So what we've got here, I hope you can hear me above my wind chimes and above my screaming hummingbirds. But what you're looking at here is a piece of a 1/4 inch paper stone. You can look paper stone up online, to which I have attached as in screwed on. Well, we have 2, 4, 6, 8. I think there's a 1.5 or 1 1/4 inch dowel rods, and so they're screwed on there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to coat them with tree tanglefoot. Not totally. Doesn't have to be all the way all over the entire thing from top to bottom, but it does have to be all around it. Maybe I'll do just a center portion of it. Maybe I'll take and just go around the center here on all of them, so that there isn't quite as much tree tanglefoot on it. But after that's all done, I will then be taking a large additional piece of, and again, this is just a piece of 1/2 inch black paper stone, and that will end up being put on top. I drilled 4 holes and countersunk them, and so I'll be screwing them into the top of those pine dowel rods. And then that whole thing, which is going to weigh a hell of a lot because paper stone is very dense and very heavy, that will end up sitting in the kitchen where you saw that other plate, and their bowl, their water bowl, and their food bowl will go on this. They will be standing on this, and if a piece drops off, it will be on this, and the ants can't get up to it. So I've been fighting them for a long, long time, and this is going to finally make it so that they can't get up there to any place that my girls have dropped any food. And by the way, when you're working with tree tanglefoot, you might want to put on a silicone or nitrile glove so that you get any of the tanglefoot where you don't want it, like on your hand. It will be on the glove instead of on you. Can you see me in here? No, you're just going to see parts of me. Okay, so we're taking the tree tanglefoot, which is icky gooey, and we're just going to ring around each of these so that there isn't any place in between the tree tanglefoot that the ants can go. And we're going to do that on each one. I'm not going to photograph the whole thing. We'll do that so that's maybe, I'll probably make it double that wide. So it won't go to the bottom, won't go to the top, but there'll be maybe an inch or so. These are about 2 inches tall. I cut them all even. Maybe an inch of tree tanglefoot in the middle. Okay, so it's all painted with tree tanglefoot. We will wrap that brush up in some paper so I can't get it on me. We will take off the glove because I'm not going to touch it anymore, and put something over it so it doesn't go away. And now we're going to put this piece on top of it. I marked the bottom of this so I could see where to position it. So we'll put that on top and move it around so that it's going to line up where I want it to be. Let's see. That's right for 1, and that's right for 2, and that's right for 3. These are way off. So the reason they weren't lining up is because I must have flipped one or the other, top or bottom, and that's the reason I had those pieces of tape there, so I would be able to find it. So now I've got 4 little screws. They're about 1.25 inches. I use Robertson head screws, for those of you that don't know that term. That's the square drive screw, so it's got a square head in it instead of either a flat or a Phillips. It just makes it so that the screwdriver never comes out. The Robertsons are fabulous because the screwdriver never comes out while you're twisting it. And so we're going to screw those in. I didn't drill any pilot holes in those posts because they're made out of pine. Pine's a soft wood. You don't have to drill a pilot hole to go into the end grain. But the paper stone, paper stone is massively dense. And so paper stone had to be pre-drilled for everything. So we can now grab this. This is heavy. Grab this, pick it up, and move it inside. And tonight when they get fed, they're going to be fed with that. Now, do I bring out, let me grab something else real quick here. Okay. So I showed you paper stone. Although I didn't show you anything on it, you can get online and take a look at it. This is Permalac. And let's see, can you see the end? Permalac. Permalac is made by Peacock Industries. They have a number of different Permalacs. This one you'll notice says Permalac EF. EF stands for environmentally friendly. There's a standard Permalac which has much more volatile compounds in it. And let's see if we'll throw my face up here so I'll be talking to you instead of you just looking at that. Let me turn this over a little bit here. I guess I can. All right, let's zoom this all the way out and bring this up. Okay. All right, you get to see the sky behind me in San Diego, El Cajon. So Permalac is a fantastic coating. I don't know if they're a public company. I don't have any stock in them, but they're a fantastic coating. I learned about Permalac from a jewelry instructor that I took a number of courses from. She said that's the best thing to spray on top of silver, copper, brass, so that they don't tarnish. And I started doing some investigation on it. And if you go to Peacock Industries' website, where they have Permalac, and you take a look at some of the things it's been used on and some of the people that have said, thank you so much, I used it here, I used it there, how well it works, you'll probably want to buy some. I always use the regular Permalac. Then I think California, because we have stricter regulations, banned the standard Permalac because of the volatile organic compounds in it. And they came out with a Permalac EF, which stands for environmentally friendly. And so I switched over to the Permalac EF, which still has VOCs, but less of them. You don't want to be breathing it all in. Use it outside. And then more recently, they came out with Permalac NT, which stands for no toluene. And that's a little bit thicker. It dries more slowly because it doesn't have as many solvents in it. Maybe it's more water-based. Water dries much more slowly than solvents do. So I'm not sure if I'm going to use the NT for no toluene. I bought both, or stick with the EF. But again, do it outside. Have lots of good ventilation. Dries very fast. So I took the can that I showed you. I took this and I sprayed 2 light coats of Permalac on both sides of the base. That's the 1/4 inch paper stone, so that if any moisture or anything gets on it, of course paper stone is so impervious it really wouldn't matter. I'm doing overkill because that's what Get Off does. I sprayed 2 coats on both sides, and then I sprayed 2 coats on the black top because I wanted to make it even more sealed. Paper stone is where they take paper, probably sawdust from mills or something like that. They add dyes to it, and then they compress it under tons and tons and tons of pressure to make it so the same size piece of paper stone weighs way more than a piece of wood that thickness and that size would weigh. And they're used as one of the various materials for countertops, for example, in a workshop, in a kitchen, in a bathroom. So in other words, you can have quartz countertops, you can have granite countertops, you can have marble countertops, you can have corian countertops. The people that can't afford all those, just use one of the laminates that are much, much, much cheaper, or paper stone, which most people have never heard of. I saw it the first time in an environmentally friendly house that I took a tour through, and it said paper stone. I said, what the hell is that? Did a bunch of research, and they have a website for cutoffs, basically, because they come in sheets that are, I think, 4 by 9 feet or 4.5 by 10 feet, and they do milling for people to send things out already done because it's so dense. You have to use special carbide blades or you will just wreck your blades immediately. And so when they have pieces left over, they put them on the Cutoffs website. And I don't remember exactly what it's called, but if you call up the company that makes paper stone and say, please give me a link to the website that has all your cutoffs, they're still very expensive. But a sheet that might be $1,400, and so a half of that sheet, would be $700 if you bought it. Instead, because it's a cutoff and they're trying to get rid of it for somebody that can use a smaller piece, it might be $250. And 2 or 3 times a year, I get an email from them, 50% off all the cutoffs, and I see if there's any scraps I need to have around. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had these pieces. I just bought them the last time they had an amazing sale. So now I have something that my girls can stand on. They can drop meat on it. The ants cannot get to it. And I am very thrilled. Looking forward to trying it. Let's go ahead and move this down. Actually, I'll take this off here. So here we're taking a look at it so you can see what it looks like. And we'll make a little bit of close-up here. So there's the tree tanglefoot, about 1 inch wide on each of the pillars. And you can see where I, screwed it down here. And, Permalac, tree tanglefoot, these are, I'm a tool nut. I've been a tool nut all my life. So, CRL is the company that makes the best countersinks for use with both wood and metal. I've got a DeWalt rechargeable drill because I didn't feel like dragging out my non-rechargeable drills, and just all sorts of different things that I needed. All right, so we going into the house. We brought the thing in there. On my way in, let me stop here in my delivery area. This is, zoom that in a little bit. This is a couple of quarts of Permalac EF and a quart. I guess they don't have the new labels yet. You can see up on top it says Permalac NT semi-gloss. It seemed to be a lot less expensive when I bought 4 quarts at a time. And since it's very stable and it's not going to go bad for years until I use it, that's what I did. So let's walk in here and walk into the kitchen. Yeah, my my kitchen. Oh, my Ming tree. I love my my Ming tree. That's one of my favorite trees. Been keeping that alive and pruning it for 10 years. So that is the girls' new eating station, and I'm on my way to Whole Foods actually to buy a whole bunch of heirloom pasture-raised chicken that they ordered for me. Normally I would never leave this because if I come back and somebody came in here and put a piece on the floor, there'd be 1 trillion ants there. But now that there can't be, because they can't get up there, I'm going to go ahead and leave this as I drive to Whole Foods. And you may notice their water bowl has a bunch of interesting things in it. So it's got some ceramic things that are supposed to change the energy on there. It's got a hormesis stone, which is radioactive. That's the G on the bottom from a grander pad that's supposed to put better energy into their water. So I do all sorts of things for my girls. And so of course my wife looked at the finished product and said, but the edges aren't rounded. So addendum, a couple more tools. Here's my Bosch jigsaw. with a special, I don't know if this is in focus or not, blade with carbide chips on it, carbide tip blade. Can't tell in the sun here whether that's in focus, but it's a special carbide tip because it's very, very hard to cut paper stone, as I said. And of course, here's the Bosch router, which I just finished using. Let's see, can I get in there and get a close-up on the 1/2-inch roundover carbide tip blade? And sitting outside where I did it, so it'd make a little bit of a mess, there's a rock sitting on top of it to hold it in place while I was both cutting it and running the router over the edges. And of course now it has nice rounded and round over with the router, so not just rounded instead of coming to a point, but rounded so that there's no longer an edge, it's rounded over. So yeah, okay, it looks a lot prettier, and now I just have to go screw it back on. I guess it helps to be a tool nut, so whenever I need something I've got it, like this and my 1/2-inch Bosch router and these blades, special carbide blade that I needed for that. So there's the finished product with nice rounded edges. And when I give them their raw meat dinner tonight, I won't have to worry if they drop a piece on the floor, because it won't be the floor. It'll be their platform that ants cannot get on unless somebody goofs and pushes it against the wall, which we won't do. Thanks for listening. Hope you don't have any problems that are this bad with ants. But if you do have ants getting onto your cats and dogs' food, this is certainly one way to 100% stop it.